Hi, this is Professor Magruder, and I wanted to spend some time today talking about self-care in social work. Self-care is a really important concept that I think sometimes gets overlooked in actual practice. We might talk about it in school and the importance of it, but oftentimes life gets in the way and sometimes that can go by the wayside. And so I just want to talk a little bit about why self-care is important and give you some ideas of ways to implement this even when life gets a little bit crazy in your student or professional lives. The first thing about self-care is I've heard this analogy of you always want to put your own oxygen mask on first before helping others. If you've ever been on a plane, they tell you this in the safety briefing. And the same is true for our work as helping professionals. We are never going to be perfect and have it all together completely. But at the same time, if we're really struggling and gasping for air, we're not going to be very effective at helping others. And so we need to take care of ourselves and have that care for ourselves and that wholeness overflow into an ability to help and give of ourselves to others. Who needs self-care? Well, we often talk to our social work clients about self-care, right? And whether that be in a therapeutic context or a healthcare setting, we're always telling clients that they need to care for themselves, physically, emotionally, mentally, socially, spiritually, all of those things. But the same is true for social work students. Many of today's social work students have a lot of different priorities and commitments, whether that be work, field placement, family life, and not to mention all your classes and readings and all of that. And so self-care is already important before you even start your professional social work career. But certainly as professional social workers, we also need to be practicing self-care in order to be the most effective and happy social workers that we can be. What are the goals of self-care? Well, first, it's to be healthy, and I don't just mean physically healthy, I mean mentally as well. And giving your best self to your clients and also to the loved ones in your life so that you can have that balance. And ultimately, self-care is a good way, and research shows this, to avoid burnout, compassion fatigue, and vicarious traumatization. So the NASW says that burnout is one of the number one reasons that social workers leave a job or leave the profession. So being just kind of over it and not able to kind of cope with those demands anymore. And a closely related concept is compassion fatigue, where you no longer have, you've kind of heard the same tragic stories over and over again. Maybe you've worked with the same types of trauma or the same population, and it becomes more difficult for you to have that blank slate and to feel compassion for individuals with those situations or circumstances. And then finally, vicarious traumatization is where you haven't directly experienced a trauma, but perhaps by seeing the aftermath of it or hearing the traumatic stories, you then take on some of that trauma yourself. And so self-care helps to avoid all of those things. So what might you do to care for yourself? Well, what you're going to do and what your plan is as unique as you are. And so what my self-care strategies are might be really different than what yours are. But I listed some examples here, and the most fundamental of which is just having rest and also boundaries. So whether that be active rest, like for example, spending time with loved ones or engaging in a hobby or maybe religious community or even exercise, or more, passive resting, where perhaps you're sleeping or doing a mindfulness meditation or taking a break or even taking a vacation away from everything. Either one of those are really important to just, again, create that balance in your life for the things that you love and enjoy besides work and things that can take care of your body, mind, and soul. One other thing I listed here that I want to point out as an example is supervision. And so that can be a big part of it, having a good relationship with a supervisor who you can debrief with and who can perhaps hold you accountable to taking care of yourself is also really important. Overall, whatever your plan is, make a plan and do something that's going to give you balance. So that doesn't mean that every single day you get to take a long bubble bath and, do yoga and have a massage. That might not be, something that you're regularly able to do. But So that doesn't mean that every single day you have, lots of rest. Obviously, that would be ideal, but maybe throughout, the week or something, if you have one day where you have to work a little bit longer, make up for that another day. And so having balance within the day, within the week, within the month, etc. And then prioritizing following that plan and doing so consistently whenever possible. As I mentioned before, this could be a supervisor, but maybe a partner or friend or colleague, could be an accountability partner to kind of check in and say, hey, have you been taking your vacation time, or um, whatever that looks like for you, inviting you to happy hour or whatever it is. And then avoiding perfectionism. There's such a tendency as helping professionals to want to throw ourselves into the work and give all of ourselves. And it's certainly good and right to give it your best every day. But you're going to make mistakes. I know I certainly do. And that's okay, as long as you have that right intention and are giving it your best effort. You're never going to arrive at being the perfect social worker, no matter how hard you work. And so doing as much as you can, and also giving that time to recharge so that you have a better shot at being a better social worker than you would be if you were burnt out and didn't have any compassion for your colleagues and clients. And now it's your turn. I think a lot of this is not new information, right? When I had the slide that had all the different bubbles of ideas of things you can do, none of this is brand new information, right? I don't think anybody listening to this lecture went, oh my goodness, I should start exercising or go to therapy or, start journaling or eat well, whatever that is. No, we know that these things are good for us. But knowing and doing are sometimes very different things, and we might not necessarily prioritize doing these things on a regular and consistent basis. And so my challenge to you is to pick one or two things that you can do today or this week and do it and see how that makes you feel, and try to cultivate a habit of that. So good luck.